journey from just being me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
Before we dive into today's episode, I've got something really powerful for you. If you've ever found yourself stuck in self-doubt, constantly second-guessing your decisions, or feeling like you just can't trust yourself, you're not alone. But the good thing is, it doesn't have to stay that way. I've created something to help you take that very first step, because that's the hardest one. It's called the Self-Belief Checklist, and it's a free tool to help you spot exactly where you're getting stuck and where you can start shifting things today. So look down in the show notes and get your free copy now. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited. I can't tell you. I have the beautiful, magical Diamond Drip with me this morning. So thank you so much for joining us, Diamond.
So excited to be here with you.
We had a beautiful conversation. I always have a conversation with my podcast guests before, and Diamond and I overran that conversation and timings massively.
Yes.
Our energy is amazing. But Diamond, you're here today to talk to us about your journey and how you recognized that this wasn't the journey you wanted to be on and you changed that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
For sure. So I will just start with the entrepreneurship journey simply because I'm doing the Gene Keys Venus Sequence retreat right now. And I am learning lots of things, memories flooding back from between 14 and 21, and we're now entering between 18 and 14. So I'll leave the personal and I'll just start with the
It's the personal stuff we want to hear about, Diamond. It's the stuff that we can relate to that we want to know about.
Listen, trust me, you're going to relate to the entrepreneurship as well, because when you are an entrepreneur, you are your business. And so all of your stuff comes up in your business. So
there you go. And that's really important because, so many people don't get that. They don't get that their business isn't working because of the fact they haven't got their mindset right.
Exactly. So to that point, about 5 years ago, I started this entrepreneurship journey after I tried to do all the things, right? They say you go to school, you do everything you're supposed to, you get good grades, you get honor roll, and then you'll get into a good college, and the college will get you the good job, and then the good job, you'll work, right, for 40 plus years, and then you get to be happy and retire and enjoy.
You got to wait that long to be happy, isn't it?
Right. So the last position that I had working for someone else was the general manager of a gym. And when I lost that position, of course, my life was like in chaos because it was like, what do I do now? And I made the decision. I was like, I'm tired of trying to play by everyone else's rules. It doesn't quite seem to be working out for me the way that I had envisioned it. Whether that was my time in the Air Force, whether that was following all the rules, whether that was climbing the ladder, because I started that position as front desk and made my way to general manager. So all of the things, they didn't work. So I was like, okay, what do I want to do? And that catalyzed me into my entrepreneurship journey. And at the time, I was a mom of a 3-year-old, and I had just started school. Visual communications is what my degree is in. And I was like, okay, I don't know what you're going to do business-wise, but we'll figure something out. And I started a product-based business, and it was very successful. And that was what I needed at the time. But what I always say about that first business is it allowed me to grow a successful business in the blissful ignorance of my own self-worth. Because when you have a product...
Say that again slowly, Diamond, because that's really important. Say that again.
It allowed me to grow a successful business in the blissful ignorance of my own self-worth. And
that's one of those wow moments.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you have a product-based business, right, you get the product, you're like, okay, I need to make money from this. You assign a profit margin, and that's really the price. You might run sales, you might do other things, but like the price is the price. And so 2 years into that journey, I participated in a clinical trial that used psilocybin, which is the active component in magic mushrooms, to actually heal my depression. And through
Go back on that again, to heal your depression.
yes, I say that it healed. I know people get touchy about like cure and whatever, but I say
Yeah.
it's healed my depression. I think that accurately describes.
And how long had you been depressed for?
I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder when I was 14. And at the time of the trial, let me not do math. It was in 2022. And so after the trial, I say that that trial was a catalyst because it allowed me to connect to what I call my higher self. And it allowed me to see just the potential, really, because she was so kind and peaceful. It seemed like nothing worried her. Everything had an answer. Everything was about divine timing. And I said when I came out of the experience, I was like, I want to be more like her. Like she seems to have some stuff together. And they say in the trial, don't make any major life decisions, major life changes for at least 6 months, because a lot of times our relationships come up in those experiences, mine did as well. And, what can sometimes happen is my partner's the source of all my problems. I'm going to divorce them. And that they say, no, wait 6 months, feel it through. And so for me, this applied to business. I waited about 7 months and I made the decision because I felt like I was working for my business. It didn't feel like my business was working for me. It felt like I had to plan my life, my excursions, my family time around this thing that I had created. And I was like, no, entrepreneurship is financial freedom, time freedom. Why do I feel like I don't have these things?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I made the decision, shut down the product-based business, and I decided, what do I love doing? And at the time for my product-based business, I was talking with people. I was getting to know what they were going through so I could make the right recommendations. And then in my graphic design kind of side business, I was helping entrepreneurs figure out who they were talking to, why they were doing what they were doing so that we could put together a brand identity, whether that's website, logo, content for social, like whatever, so that they could. But what I found was that they didn't come as clear as I would have liked them to. So what was happening was I was doing all of the graphic design work and getting paid for that. But the coaching that I was doing to get them to the point of clarity, I was not getting paid for. So in both of these aspects, it was like, I'm helping people. I'm helping them get to a realization. And so I said, coaching seemed like the best bet. And the thing that I say that I fear pivoted to, because I really wanted to try my hand at being a life coach, but all the imposter syndrome of like, you're too young. What do you know about life? Like, do you even have the skill set to teach people how to do what you do? And so all the stuff came up, but I had already built a business. And so I was like, maybe I'll do business coaching. And I realized very quickly that building a service-based business was different from building a product-based business. And that made me so scared. And so out of fear, I joined a 12-month business coaching program for specifically spiritual entrepreneurship, but they were also talking about like business practices. And I was like, this is what I need. And it was through that program that I realized that a lot of the strategies, a lot of the frameworks that sold me on the program, do this and you'll make X amount of money per month if you just follow this simple framework. Those things don't work for everyone. And I was one of those people that they didn't work for, which is not for lack of trying, right? I was doing all the things, draining myself, exhausting myself, but I wasn't, in hindsight, I wasn't aligned. So nothing that I ever put all of my time and energy and effort into actually panned out. But I got a lot of experience, which, learning.
That's a key thing, isn't it? Is the fact that actually we do a whole load of stuff and it doesn't work out. But what you get from that is a whole load of experience because, okay, so when I did that, that didn't work. So maybe if I try this, okay, we know that doesn't work. Let's look at this.
Exactly.
And that's just a magical way to look at life, isn't it? Rather than thinking, that failed. Can't do that. I'm no good. It's just about, okay, so when you do this, that doesn't happen. Okay, let's look for another way.
Exactly. But so
Um,
many of us get caught up in the cultural context of failing. And I
yeah,
say that with air quotes for our listeners on audio, because it's one of those things where it's like there's a actual energy type profile line that experiences this a lot, but you're constantly bumping into things. And whereas you can look at it as, why is life happening to me? The shift is really is, how is this happening for me? What is this here to teach me? And that's something that I've been embodying a lot.
absolutely, because you need to understand how your behavior, your reactions affect your life. You are responsible for your behavior and your reactions.
Exactly. I actually was just teaching this to my daughter because we both have emotional authority, which I'm sure we'll get there. But I tell her all the time, we can't control what happens to us, because if we could, I would. But we can control how we react to it. And so
Yeah.
it's really just that piece. So through that journey, learning, trying a bunch of stuff, gaining a bunch of experience. The thing that was really clear in that program was like, who's your niche? What's your superpower? The unique value proposition. And so this really is where my higher self journey, personal growth journey that I was like already on from 2022 kind of met with my entrepreneurship journey of like, what makes me special? What makes me me? That sets me apart from other people. And so it was in a conversation that I was having with someone that they asked me if I knew my energy type. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. She sends me this tool, which is less detailed than the one that's on my site right now. And so it just gave me words. And I was like, generator, emotional authority. That seems like something, right? It's being diagnosed with bipolar 2 at 14. And so I went on my YouTube rabbit hole deep dive. And the very first thing that I searched, what does it mean to be a generator in human design? It talks about when you're doing work that you love, you generate so much energy that it literally bubbles up out of you into what you're doing, into the people that are around you, which is why discernment is so important for generators, because people want your energy around. People want, like, they want what you bring. But if you agree to something and you don't actually feel like doing it, you're not going to bring that same energy.
And do you know, it's such a logical, easy thing to, if you're going to do something you love to do, you're going to feel great about it. And if you feel great about something, then people are going to love to be around you. If you do stuff you don't like to do, you're not going to feel so great about it. Therefore, people aren't going to want to be around you. It's quite simple, really, isn't it? And yet, what do we look at? So often people are still doing things they don't want to do.
Yes. Oh my God.
And that comes down to boundaries and values and all sorts of things, doesn't it?
All sorts of things. So literally, we meet on Tuesdays in my private community at 11. And we just had two people, well, the second person, celebrate the fact that these are entrepreneurial women. They just also happen to have like W-2 jobs. One's a therapist and she's
What's W2? Sorry.
oh yes, UK. W-2 is when you work for someone else and you like basically file taxes based on like if someone else keeps track of how much money you make and how much taxes you pay.
Yeah. So for us, that is being employed by an employer.
Yes. Yes. And so the therapist, she was getting kind of like um frustrated with the red tape of like HIPAA and how much she could engage with people. And she wanted to get more into coaching, but her schedule was so busy with her therapy practice that she was like, I can't just move all my clients to one day. I can't just launch this new thing and just like telling herself all of these stories, right? Telling herself all of these stories.
Look, for those of you that are on audio and not on YouTube watching this, both Diamond and I are going, yeah, right. Okay. Why can't you? Why can't you?
and the other person worked for the government. And she when she joined the program in November, she was talking about, I'm going to leave in February. I'm going to resign in February. I'm going to get myself to this. And then February started getting closer. And she was like, I think I'm going to stay a little longer. I think I'm going to stack up, whatever, like trying to control the situation. And then of course, February hit and things started happening. Executive orders started going, people started worrying. And it was one of those things where she finally stepped into her power because she too was like, I can't devote time to my business because they have me working 40 plus hours every week. And I'm like, you want to leave anyway. Why are you letting them work you so hard when you could be
And do
working?
they pay you
Right.
all of those hours? Because
Right.
if they're not paying you, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
there has to be some kickback to you working all those hours because otherwise you're just doing it to put money in somebody else's pocket.
Exactly. And so just yesterday, the second person finally came to her truth. I won't even say senses or anything, came to her truth of like, I deserve more than this. And so we celebrated that because really the things that hold us back are the stories that we tell ourselves. And that's one of the things that I've been loving about human design because we have learned so much. We learn from our parents what they understood about the world. Then we have friends and different households and cultures come together and we don't want to be ostracized. So we conform to fit in with our friends. And then society the whole time is like, stereotypes, conditioning, etc., marketing, all of the things. And we just in so many ways learn how to not be ourselves. We learn that it's not safe to be our authentic selves. And so what human design, it really gives you a lens of looking at yourself and it helps you remember. Because so many of us, we were in touch with it as children. We just had it taught out of us. Like I'll get yeah.
So I had the same conversation with somebody the other day about, woo, if you like. The fact that actually, when children are young, they're very open to all of this. They don't even think, if they think that there's somebody in the room giving them a message, there's not a thought about it. It just gets squashed out of us, to allow us to conform what is needed around us, rather than allowing us just to be the wonderful beings that we are.
Exactly. Exactly. My daughter is a perfect example of that. She has a very vocal personality. And she also has I don't want to use terms because I know we haven't talked about it yet, but I will use terms so it makes sense later. But she has a fifth line in human design. So she can see the potential. She can see solutions that other people can't all the time. And she had a new bus driver a couple of weeks ago, and the bus was like 40 minutes late. And so when she got in the car, I was like, did your bus driver like get lost? And she was like, yeah, she was new. And I was like, did anyone like say anything to her? Like she was going the wrong way. And she was like, yeah, I did. And then I was like, oh, well, what did she say? And she was like, I know where I'm going. And I was, I was like, and how did that make you feel? And she said, sad. And I said, one of the things that you have to understand about your energy is that you are here to help people, the right people at the right time when you're invited in for that wisdom. That lady was probably really anxious about how late she was. And the last thing she needed was some little kid telling her that she's going the wrong way. And when I kind of reframed it for her, because that was an instance where she would have made herself wrong and she would silence her wisdom because she would think that people weren't going to receive it. And so in explaining that to her, I'm like, no, it's not, you're not. It's just people aren't as receptive as we always want them to be.
Absolutely. And what a wonderful thing for her, because that could have created a negative self-belief, which
Exactly.
could have continued on into adulthood and beyond. It's because in the work that I do, that's what I spend an awful lot of time identifying. Is this a true belief?
Yeah.
And when was it created? And is it true now?
Yeah.
Because we create all of these beliefs when we're children, don't we?
Yeah.
And then we go forward into adulthood and just keep believing them. But
Yeah.
actually, we don't need to. We just don't need to. And that's where what you do is so very, very interesting. And that's why we ran over so much. And we have to try and keep a lid on it today, Diamond.
I
Let's
know.
walk on that one. But explain, first of all, what I want to know is the trial that you went on
Mhm.
for your bipolar,
Mhm.
it worked?
Absolutely. So that the qualification, like criteria for that, is to have had treatment resistant depression. Um, that just the periods of, because okay, well, let me back up. Bipolar one, um, those people typically have more manic episodes, and then they like have like kind of a come down, and then they're at their baseline. But like usually most of their time that gets them their diagnosis is spent in the mania piece of like doing a bunch of things, thinking that they have more time that they do, etc. Bipolar 2 is kind of the opposite. We spend a lot of our time in the depression part.
Wow.
And a lot of people who have bipolar 2, they actually, and this is just from research that I've been seeing on just public forums, people talking about their diagnosis. People actually would try and trigger their hypomania safely because it was the only time that they really felt good, that they really felt like they could do anything, be anything. And I found that really sad.
That
But
is very bad.
yes. And so the trial really, safety wise, they didn't test bipolar 1 people because they didn't want to trigger the mania. But
Mhm.
with bipolar 2, given the context of people were already trying to trigger it anyway, they said, hey, why not? Let's do this experiment. And I was like 18. I was one of like the last participants in the trial. And what I can say is, because we did a 1-year panel interview last year sometime, and it a lot of the participants reported actually that they were in remission from whatever it was. And now all of us came from different, things. One question that someone asked me in an interview was like, do you feel like people get to this point of like giving up? And that's what kind of just, ignites them to be like, well, let me just try this. And I said, in some ways, kind of, because for me, I was already looking into natural medicine and I wanted a way to do it safely and to be able to help people with the knowledge from like the science safety side part of it. One of the other people that I was on a panel with, she came from it because she had been going through I knew that they did it, but I keep forgetting that they still do the electrotherapy where they like send shock waves through your brain. And she was a PhD candidate. And so she was starting to have memory loss issues from all of the treatments. They would help her feel better, but she would have all these physical symptoms. And so she tried it because she was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, if this
Yeah.
helps, yeah. And so I'm so happy that so many of us had found that it has actually helped us more than it's hurt us.
So now, are you on any chemical medication?
You know?
No, pure
Mhm.
natural.
Mhm.
Pure natural.
Yes.
How long's that been for?
So the trial is in August of 2022. It is February 2025. So going on and going on 3 years.
And because I'm not, I like to put as least amount of chemicals into my body, into my systems as possible, because it can't. Uh, well, that's my beliefs anyway. So to hear that, to hear for something as debilitating as bipolar,
Yeah.
and we have to remember this. This is not in the UK.
Mhm.
So, there's every likelihood it's not the same. But the kind of the story behind it, really, or the moral behind it, is the fact that actually you had this debilitating condition and you've been able to work your way through it and
Exactly.
create a business that is kind of magical.
Exactly.
That leads me very nicely to this place of, okay, please tell me about your business, or please tell everybody about your business.
Yes, absolutely. So I had a good portion, and I love that you brought up the diagnosis piece because that's even something that the more spiritual I lean and the more knowledge that I have about what it means to have emotional authority and to have these pieces of ourselves that actually conflict each other. And then we look out because we can't find certainty inside ourselves, we look outside of ourselves to be like, well, what's everyone else saying? And what everyone else saying is not always something that you should be believing.
Listening to. And also the more I go along, I think on some plane I've always believed this, but the more I go along, the more I understand is the fact that you can be really similar to another person, but they're never going to be you. They're never going to think in your way. So when you ask somebody, what would you do in my situation? They're going to give it to you from their perspective, not your perspective.
Exactly.
And then when you try to carry that out because you believe they know, well, you're just setting yourself up for failure, aren't you? Because you're not aligning with yourself,
Exactly.
which is when you can come to somebody like you and understand a bit more about who you are, uniquely you. That's
Exactly.
what makes me go, oh, I like that.
Yeah. So what I do is I help people unpack those old stories that they have told about themselves, about their gifts specifically. Because human design is what I consider, right? Some people may disagree with me because it's a lot of information, but I consider it to be very practical and solution based. So what we do is we get to know you on a soul level. We start with your energy type. We unpack how does your costume show up in the world? How do other people see you? How do you see yourself? What are areas of you where you actually listen to outside stuff, noise, the inner critic, more than you listen to your authentic truth? And then we figure out, okay, what is my authentic truth? How do I make my best decisions? And we actually start to practice that because so many of us, like generators, um, when that initial, for sacral generators specifically, they get that or It's immediate. It is instant. Do you want to do something? It's like, but the mind comes in and it's like, well, if you did this other thing first, then you could probably do that. And it just makes up stuff to make it harder. And so we figure out, how does your truth speak to you and how can you start listening to it more? Because that's really going to be the key to using the gifts. So many of the gifts that we talk about, it gives you the potential for it. It gives you the shadow, but it also gives you an opportunity to exercise your strategy and authority because so many of our gifts have to do with right timing, with right people. And in order to figure out what that is for ourselves, we have to look inside of ourselves. We have to see what is the wisdom that my body is telling me, because we've been conditioned to not listen to it. So I help them figure out how they can listen to it. And then for those who are entrepreneurial, because I did just expand my niche to souls who are looking for transformation, but if they are entrepreneurial, then we create an online brand that matches who you are, how you are, that's not going to change and shift and need a rebrand because it's you. It's going to grow with you.
And that is the biggest thing, isn't it? I mean, as you know, my business is called Just Being Me because all I wanted to be was me.
Yeah.
That's just I do want to remove all the other stuff and just let me be me. And once you are sitting in you, yes, I'm coming up 60, so there's a lot of unpacking needs to happen because a lot of stuff happened. But when you get yourself into that place of knowing who you are, when you find something that needs unpacking, it comes with emotion at the time, but it's not long held emotion. And it can be upsetting, but it's almost a relief as well, because now I know it's there, I can do something about it. And it's when you don't know who you are inside that you can't function, because you need to know who you are and sit with you to understand.
Exactly. Yeah. And the more I dive deep, like I learned traditional human design, and that language is more of a prescription because so many of us, we just need that jolt, that shock of like, this is who you are. And as I dive more into like the quantum human design with Karen Curry Parker, I'm starting to see that there's an even higher expression that we can tap into. And as I've been we call it in human design, the experiment, because it's the experiment of listening to yourself outside of everything you've been taught. So we kind of call it the experiment. And so I began the experiment about a year and some change ago, and I had been working exclusively with traditional human design. I rabbit holed, I nerded out, I went to all the workshops, all of the things. And it was actually just recently in January that I started to really get an understanding of quantum human design. And I still saw pieces where I was still telling myself a story that wasn't true, where I had forgotten. And she had us do this really clear exercise where we wrote down, like our shadows, and we wrote down the higher expressions of our gifts, and just even looking at them and just like being like, wow, I have a lot more than I don't. So why do I focus so much on the things that I don't? When there's
It's a really weird thing, isn't it? In the fact that actually, when we get on the negative train, we just troll along on the negative train. When we get on the positive train, if you haven't done the deep work to get on the positive train, you can get knocked off by the next negativity that comes along, and you just fall with it and get back on the negative train.
Yeah.
But once you get and understand inside of you and get on the positive train, you're on the positive train.
Yeah.
And negative things happen because life is life.
Mhm.
Yeah. But they don't knock you off the train anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a feeling you can't describe to people, but I just, in the work that I do, I'm sitting here going, please come here, because it feels great. This train feels really, really great. And I mean, look at you, look at the energy you have. Your train feels really, really great, doesn't it?
It does.
But every day is not a wonderfully positive day. You're not always sitting on that really, really high. Life happens, but your life feels great. My life feels great. Working on this stuff that's inside of you, it is not about materialistic things. It's not about your jobs. It's not about anything else but what's inside of you.
One of the things, because I briefly looked into the Akashic records and getting certified in that, but then I had to put that on side because I was like, I'm learning too much. I need to prioritize information. But one of the things that I learned, and I love the way this perspective shift that she looked at it. We were all, right, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but we were all essentially sitting up there in the cosmos in this 5D land. Everything's all interconnected. And then our soul was like, you know what? This is cool, but I want to experience myself. I want to know what it's like what am I without all of this attached to me? Let me go down to Earth School. Let me get my little curriculum, my little syllabi. Let me pick out my supplies, right? My gifts. And let me just see how I can grow, how I can evolve, how I can experience myself. And when we think about it from that lens of like this infinite quantum consciousness created, like knowing that nothing ever really ends, we're just kind of ever evolving. Our souls are ever evolving. When you think about getting mad at the small little things, it's like, did I come here to be wrapped up in this, or did I come here with a purpose? And those are the types of things that my higher self reminds me of. Because like you said, like the positivity train is great. However, the guy who walks around making sure that your ticket, like you're supposed to have the great ticket or whatever, he's still coming around. He's still checking, and you could still get kicked off the positivity train. You can walk off, you can whatever. But the reason why I say it's a choice is because it's all in the reaction. So many of us, we identify so much with the emotional charge to situations, and we just literally forget ourselves. We forget that higher divine aspect of ourselves, and we're like, no, he's wrong. I'm right. And we just hold on. And it's like, you got to let that go. You got to.
I can feel myself going, it doesn't really matter what he thinks. All that matters to me is what I think.
Exactly.
And it is that moment, isn't it? Is recognizing that I need to be guided by what's truly inside of me.
Yeah.
Not be guided by what everybody else tells me, social media, television. It's what goes on inside of me is what I need to be guided by.
Exactly.
It's been amazing to chat with you, Diamond, and we could go on for ages and ages and ages, couldn't we? So we will put the ways to connect with Diamond down below. So if you want to look into anything to do with human design, go check her out. And you never know, maybe in the future we'll have her back purely to talk about human design, which would be fabulous. Thank you so much, Diamond.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.